Lagos State government confirmed the authenticity of a leaked letter indicating planned mass burial for 103 corpses recovered in the wake of the October 2020 Endsars protest, demanding the disbandment of the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. The letter, dated July 19, 2023, emanated from the Lagos State Public Procurement Agency, was addressed to the Ministry of Health and revealed the approval of the sum of 61,285,000 naira for the mass burial. In a statement on Sunday, the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Ogboye, confirmed the authenticity of the letter, clarifying, however, that the 103 corpses were not recovered from the Lekki toll gate. Joining us to discuss this is Faith Nwadishi, the Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. All right, to start with, what is your impression about the move to bury up to 103 dead bodies recovered from the Endsars protest, given that it's almost 3 years after?
Well, the decision of the government to bury those that died during the Endsars, it's a welcome one, at least to give them the befitting burial and for them to rest. But on the other hand, this will further, cause pain to the families of those who had passed on during this period. We all know what the Endsars protest meant for Nigerians, and the fact that during this period, government themselves were denied the total number of persons who had passed during that period. And now suddenly we have 103 people to be buried, people that have assumed to have died during the Endsars. It means that, one, government is not accountable to the people; two, lives don't really matter; and three, that there's no closure. There's no closure for the families of those who have died, and for the reason that they died. They did not just die, they died because they believed in a cause that would bring Nigeria onto a path of development, a path of peace, a path of justice. But we see now that government is coming out to say, and spend so much money to bury people when they didn't spend as much money to ensure that the issues that they have raised have been addressed.
All right, looking at the planned burial, the state had denied that nobody was killed, especially at Lagos toll gate during the protest. Do you suspect any political undertones in this plan?
They cannot say that nobody was killed, because live bullets, we saw all of that come up. So they need to now begin to account for everybody, 103 of those bodies, where they saw them, how they saw them, and what was the conclusion that these bodies were related to the Endsars issue. If they're not saying that these bodies were not recovered around the toll gate, where did they recover these bodies? And how have they taken into cognizance the identity of these persons that they are going to bury? Perhaps they thought that Nigerians had forgotten, Nigerians had moved on from what had happened in Endsars. But for every day since when the Endsars ended, Endsars have always come up in our national conversations. So there's no way you can just go and bury 103 persons under people who have died under the Endsars protest and think that Nigerians will not resurrect the issue. This is not the way to go about it. The first thing to do that they would have done was to identify who these persons were, contact their families, perhaps conduct a DNA to enable families have a closure on all of these things, and then begin to address the reasons why these people had died during that protest.
All right, now the state is planning to spend 61.2 million naira. Do you think that amount is justifiable, especially considering the economic situation and the hardship in the country at the moment?
Exactly, there's no justification for the state to spend such amount of money because they want to bury people who had died during that. I said earlier in my submission that this money could have been used to begin to address some of those issues that these people died for. Now you have not started addressing those issues that these people died for. You are spending so much money to bury the people. What are you buying? Are you having a state of the art kind of burial for these people who have died? What is making up that cost that you have to spend so much money to bury people who died in the course of asking for the right things to be done in a country, for the people who died in the course of asking for justice to be done in the country, and you're going to spend such amount of money. We have seen that letter. There were no specific outlines of what that money will be used for. And you know the procurement process in Nigeria that has gone back and forth before even the president had given, the governor gave his final approval to that money. That money would have been better put into, immortalizing those who have died during the Endsars protest and beginning to address the issues why they died. Now, some of the reasons why they died, you now want to spend that amount of money to continuously perpetuate that reason why they died. The fact that there's no proper accountability, there's no transparency, there's so much impunity. You're not taking into consideration the pains of people, families who have lost their loved ones. You're not taking all of that into consideration, and you're just going ahead to spend state money to say you want to bury people who had died during the protest. The same people that you denied had died. The same people you denied earlier that died, now you want to bury them because you think that people have forgotten.
Thank you very much for your submission. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you for
having me. And that was
Faith.
All right. And that was Faith Nwadishi, the Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy.